As a survivor of abuse and abandonment, she is passionate about helping people to take control of their lives through total mindset transformation.
Have you ever had a moment in your life when the pain was so great, it was unbearable?
Through her work, Grace has uncovered the truth behind the original core beliefs which drive people's decisions to shape the person they are today.
Isn't it stunning how we are all so cool, calm, and collected, yet we are really lost, vulnerable, and afraid? How many lanes did you want that superhighway?
You didn't know where Australia
Well,
was?
I kind of thought it was next to Canada. I thought, okay, that's... So I was packing all these jackets and all of that, and we land in Queensland, Brisbane. Mom, you have a birthday every day. You must be really, really old.
The video is working. Hang on 1 second. Okay, so we'll play this video.
Have you ever had a dream as a little girl that made you feel connected to something more than what you can see, hear, feel, and touch? Quite often as we go through the ups and downs of life, we become lost and forget who we truly are. I wrote Become the Woman of Your Dreams because it's a story that reflects not only my journey, but the journey of so many women. This journey where we look for connection and meaning. We tend to look for that connection outside of ourselves by trying to do too much, to achieve, to have, to acquire. Trying so hard to do and to have, we go into more sorrow and grief, and we suffer in our relationships, career, and health. Growing up, I've faced challenges as an abandoned child where I had been through a lot of neglect and a lot of abuse. Over the years, I knew I was looking for something, and even though I knew and felt that I wanted to experience love, I didn't actually quite know what love looked like or felt like. I didn't know exactly what I was supposed to be looking for. But in spite of all of that, I hung on to that dream that I had as a little girl, that feeling. I remember when I was very small, I used to run to the open fields and just twirled around like a helicopter and let the breeze blow my hair, and there was this immense feeling of hope. It was so deep and intense that it stayed with me all of the time, even though I got lost for some time. I had a hope that was unshakable. No matter what happened to me, you couldn't take that hope away from me. This book, Become the Woman of Your Dreams, is about finding that inner connection that you've always had with yourself as a child, and using that inner connection, using that love for yourself when you were a child as your superpower to become the woman of your dreams. You see, we are all capable of healing. We don't need to look outside of ourselves to give us the love that we are looking for, to give us the healing that we so deserve to have. All we have to do is go inside. I invite all of you to read this book because this story isn't just mine, it's a story that is true to you. This book is going to make you laugh, it's going to make you cry, it's going to make you think, it's going to challenge you a little bit, but ultimately it's going to allow you to see that whatever happened in the past does not define who you are and what you can become. Because deep inside of you, you are the hero that you have been waiting for. You are meant to become the woman of your dreams.
Hello. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Spiritual Events Directory live tonight. I am Grace Harris, your show host, and this is the Atomic Self-Love Project. I have a guest waiting in the wings tonight with us, Charmaine Platon from Los Angeles. She's a sugar cravings coach. But first of all, I wanted to get this show started with an affirmation. I have, I'm a fan of Gabrielle Bernstein, and I don't know if you are, but when I actually first heard of her and I started to follow her, she really scared me because she's a bit of a kick-ass chick, she has a lot of wisdom and she has been through so much. But when she talks to you, she is a no-nonsense chick, and so she just talks to you straight, and then she has this really strong energy about her and loving at the same time. And so I was so intrigued. And then there's this book that she wrote, which is Miracles Now. And after she wrote that book, soon after that, people just used the book as like an affirmation book. And so she converted that into cards, affirmation cards. And so tonight, to set the intention, I'd like to pick a card for just for all of us and see where that brings us, because Atomic Self-Love, the show Atomic Self-Love Project here is all about featuring ordinary women who have created and are creating extraordinary results in their lives. We're going to be talking about so many different aspects of life. Tonight we are talking about, why you are craving for sugar and how's that, helping or not helping your lifestyle, but also the deeper side of sugar craving, what that means and where is it coming from. But over the span of 3 months, we're going to be talking about other things like childhood trauma and how to actually overcome childhood abuse. And we're going to be talking about self-sustainable living made simple. Last week we were talking about money mindset, and it's about sharing the stories with you guys, ladies especially, because we know that these stories are not unique. These are stories in different versions that happen to every one of us. And once we share these stories and share that vulnerability piece, that we can be so open to one another and really share the wisdom that we've learned, and also the challenges, especially the challenges, to know that we are not alone in this journey called life, in the mothering, in the partnering, in the career, in the business side of things, even with getting over stuff from the past. What does that look like? How do I do that? Because a lot of us are still, we might look really successful on the outside, but inside we could be very terrified because we've managed to suppress so many of our childhood trauma, really, and became successful in other areas. But there's still that one thing that's holding us down from really fully becoming expressed as our true, authentic self. And so I can't wait for our Atomic Self-Love Project show tonight. But let me just pull a beautiful card for everyone, one card for all of us. And so say hello on the chat. Let us know where you're hailing from. And if you do have a particular question about sugar craving, put it down on the chat right now and we'll try and answer it later on. And yeah, so I cannot wait to be able to engage with you ladies. And the card that's really attracting me at the moment is like a mustard colored card. Here it is. And it says, I choose to reinterpret my fears with a more loving perspective. I'm hoping you can see that properly. I choose to reinterpret my fears with a more loving perspective. This is an amazing, amazing affirmation. Let me just tell you a little context of the Atomic Self-Love. The Atomic Self-Love comes from a framework that is called Paradigms of Self-Love, which I have been teaching in the last couple of years. You see, the thing about Paradigms of Self-Love is this. I do believe that we all love ourselves, even those who are suffering from depression and anxiety. We all love ourselves. Every decision that we make comes from self-love. The only problem with a basic paradigm of self-love that's not developed with self-awareness and self-mastery is that there are two sides to it. There's the fear-based paradigm of self-love, and there is the fearless paradigms of self-love. And this card is talking to us Isn't that interesting that I picked that card? I choose to reinterpret my fears with a more loving perspective. It's say for example, if you were to make a decision today about what you would have for dessert, and then you decided on, let's just say for example, sticky date pudding, and you know that you shouldn't be consuming a big plate of sticky date pudding, but you got carried away. You're probably in a restaurant eating with family, and the next thing you've eaten the whole lot, even though you know that you haven't. Okay, so let's say you've done the action and then you beat yourself up, you blame yourself, you feel bad about it. You can choose to reinterpret that into a more loving perspective by just saying, look, I got carried away. I am aware, and I'm going to be more aware next time, because I know that I deserve to be able to treat my body better. It's just shifting, a little bit of shift in the perspective means so much. It becomes atomic. It becomes something that really creates a life that's, you know, magnificent, that's unstoppable. The thing about atomic self-love, though, it's very similar to your sugar craving discipline, is that the more you do of it, the more you shift little bits of perspective from fear-based to fearless, the more that you develop that muscle, that heart muscle and the mental muscle, to really become more loving fearlessly towards yourself, and just practice atomic self-love habits, one after the other, after the other, after the other. It doesn't matter what you've done 5 minutes ago. It's the shift in the perspective as to how much do you love yourself so that you could do better next time. So I hope that's that card is it's really resonating with us tonight. And I'm so excited. You know, guys, I am 45 years old, and over the course of my life, if I have a weakness, it's pastries. And I've always justified that, oh, it's pastries, it's not too bad. But the problem is, a few years ago, I realized that pastries actually convert into sugar when we consume it. And the same with bread, the same with rice, the same with many, 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 many different foods. And so when it comes down to it, why are we so addicted to sugar? I was talking to a lady last night, and she was so similar to me. She was just so concerned because every time she finished work, she's so tired that she'd come home feeling angry, feeling anxious, and then she would binge on many different foods. It's not just sugar, but if you look at the food that she binges on, they convert to sugar. And so her dilemma was, how can I, you know, be a more disciplined mother, even though I feel like I'm already waking up early in the morning consistently at 5:30, and I'm doing all these, you know, professional development so I could rise up to my in my job. But then when I come home, I'm tired, I'm angry, I'm anxious, and I binge many times during the week, at least 3 times. And it's interesting because when back in my corporate time, when I was in corporate, I was exactly the same. And there were times when I am so tired and fatigued that I would eat more in order to lift my energy, when what I really needed was a nap, because I knew that it wasn't serving me well, because the more I ate, the more fatigued I felt, the more I felt really, you know, heavy and bloated and even more anxious. Like, don't worry about anger. It's just like really anxious about my body. And so many you know, late 30s, early 40s women like I was, we don't yet understand, especially when our metabolism change. And for those of you watching who are still in your 20s and 30s, this is just something just to be aware. It does change. Like when you are in your 20s and 30s, you can eat anything and it's okay. And then when you hit your 40s, you don't change anything, but for some reason your body just stops responding the way that it used to. And so there's all these changes that you don't understand. And the thing is, you could spend 10 years of your life to understand those changes and hit your menopause stage. And by the time time you think you understand the changes, you've changed again into menopause. So the idea of being knowledgeable about sugar cravings and all other things about the changes in your body is that the shorter the span of time that you get to understand that, the more you enjoy your life. You could nail it down in 12 months, and by the age of 42 to 49, before you hit your menopause, then you're just really humming along because you know how your body works. So this is a chance for me to get educated tonight, more educated tonight, but also to share this education with you guys. And without further ado, I want to introduce my guest. She's waiting in the wings with us. Her name is Charmaine Grace Platon, and she lives in Los Angeles. And Charmaine was a former nurse, registered nurse, and also a physical trainer. But now she's a keto and sugar cravings coach, and she has educated so many women about being able to understand and handle the sugar cravings. And what I'm so excited about is this thing that she is teaching so many people called the 90-second power pause. But I'll ask her about that later on. But yeah, Charmaine, are you here with me?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, Grace.
Welcome. Amazing. Cool. So just to give everyone a context, Charmaine and I met on the internet because it is COVID time, and she lives like, it's 12 a.m. in the morning for her Sunday morning. So we are in her future. So I really appreciate you coming on with us tonight. It just means so much for me. Look, Charmaine, so when I met you, I was just so stoked. That's what we say in Australia, because what you know, with your experience with your as a nurse and as a physical trainer and also as a coach right now, if you combine those, because you've seen everyday lives and you've seen high performing people that want to do better for their bodies and their performance, and you've seen ordinary women like me who really just wants to understand what the hell is going on. So I was like, when I met you, I was like, oh my God, I have to have her on my show. And so can you please take us back a little bit first? I know that you have history as to why you are so passionate about what you do, about what's happened with your own body and in your career and everything like that. So tell us about Charmaine.
Hi, everyone. Oh my gosh, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be speaking to an audience in Australia. I'm like, wow, that's so cool. Anyway, so just to give you guys a big context, I know Grace was talking about how when you're older, your metabolism changes and your hormones change and things like that. But the thing that really, I guess, shook me up was, as she mentioned, I was a personal trainer a few years ago. I was very competitive. I was doing marathons, half marathons, Spartan races. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Spartan race, but it's like an obstacle course race. And I was in the best shape of my life. And I was young, I was 27, and I thought I was doing all the right things. But then it got to this point where like I thought I was eating healthy. I was training a lot, but I was just getting my routine checkup at the doctor's office. And then they basically said one day, like a few years ago when I was 27, they're like, oh, you're pre-diabetic. And I was like, what? And being a nurse, taking care of patients with diabetes and, poking them 8 times a day and taking care of their wounds, it's just terrifying. So I thought it was something you get when you're older, but apparently you could get it when you're younger, and people are getting it even younger nowadays. Like, that's why they don't call it an adult onset diabetes anymore. It's like everyone could get it now, the type 2 diabetes. So that really shook me. It really had me look much more at my relationship with food, because I never, ever looked at that before. And it really revealed a lot of, to me, that I was using food a lot to cope with stress, and we could get into that later. But that's what propelled me into this journey and what is making me so passionate. Like, I really want to help women see that, their relationship with food can determine their, basically how you take care of yourself. It could determine your health, like down the road, like what you're going to do, and also just how you manage your emotions. So I'm so glad it happened, because I'm here in this path now.
Wow. So I could imagine, so 27, highly active, highly competitive, living your best life, and you've got a career that you loved, and you thought you had everything under control. And then one day you were having like a standard doctor appointment or something, nothing, no big deal. And then next thing they say to you, well, you're coming up as pre-diabetic. So that must have been a shock, because it's for someone who's so fit and so competitive and very active, that would be one of the last things that you would expect to happen. So educate me, what type of lifestyle, or what could be the causes that one could get into the state of being a pre-diabetic?
So basically, just to sum it up in a simple standpoint, is when you have like diabetes is basically like, I'm talking about type 2 diabetes. There's two different kinds, but type 2 is the one that you could get that's a lifestyle condition. Type 1 is more, you're born with that. So anyway, with type 2, it's basically if you eat too much sugar and carbs, it gets to this point where, in a nutshell, there's too much sugar in your bloodstream, and your body needs to put the sugar somewhere in your body, or else it's fatal. If you have too much sugar in your blood, it's fatal. You could die, like if your blood sugar is too high. So if your blood sugar is chronically elevated, then the hormone insulin, it's a hormone that's supposed to get the blood sugar into your cells. It doesn't work properly. It's something called insulin resistance, and that's what makes your blood sugar chronically high. And so they give you med, and that's what leads to diabetes. So you could get that from basically, like what I said, it's basically eating too many sugars and carbs. And the thing is, it's not even about eating like candy and sweets and all the things that we think sugar is, but it's even like what you were hinting at before, like even eating a lot of eating a lot of flours, like flour and processed foods and packaged foods, like cereal, protein bars, bread, pasta. So all the foods that are digested into sugar in your body. And it's also how frequently you eat. So if you're eating very frequently, like snacking all the time, and you're eating a lot of sugar and carbs very consistently, that could bring your sugars up very quickly. And even if you're young like me, you could develop insulin resistance pretty quickly.
Wow. Yep. Interesting. Definitely not at 27 you would expect if you're highly active as well. So what was the journey like once you've discovered that you were pre-diabetic, and then walk me through what happened in your mind? Like, what were after the shock effect, what was the one thing that you wanted to do, and did you act on it? Did you have any anxiety about it? And what was the process of coming from, that lifestyle? Because it's hard for me to imagine having a competitive and highly active lifestyle and be able to get into that state and then transition. Like it must be like a bit of a complicated transition in your mind. Walk me through that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of shock. First of all, you like I was very like a perfectionist type A. I'm just like, I want to control everything. Like I was a type A nurse, And so when you think, the thing that was so upsetting is like, you think you're doing all the right things. Like you think you're healthy, you think you're eating the right stuff. And then it's just kind of a big blow to your ego, basically, if it's showing you something like that. And it wasn't just that 1 year. It was kind of like the sugars were creeping up year by year. And I thought, oh, it's going to go down. It'll be fine. But it just kept going up and up. So I just really had to look at what I was eating. Because back then, like how I was eating was, even though I wasn't eating like fast food every day, it was kind of like I was still eating a lot of processed foods and packaged foods and convenient food, like things like Subway and going to like getting granola bars and stuff like that. So I'd eat that frequently, and I thought that was healthy, but it was still bringing up my blood sugars. So it was.
I think they're healthy. So there you go, right?
Yeah, they label
bars. You're saying Subway. These are things that we think are healthy choices. Well, at least I do. I mean, I'm sure that a lot of more knowledgeable people there would just they know. But for a typical a consumer, these are things that are packaged to be healthy. So there's a lot of things there that are packaged to be good for you. So right. Then how do we know from looking at something that, even though it's claiming on the label that it's good for me, how can I discern What am I looking for?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, the most important thing I learned from this journey is that you got to focus on eating real food that is from this planet. And basically, I always say to people, eat food that is the ingredient itself. It doesn't have an ingredients list, and it doesn't come in a box. Like if it's just real food that that used to be living at some point, and it's perishable, and it's the ingredient itself that's like my rules for like my guideline for what to eat. And if it doesn't fit that, then it's most likely not a whole food or a real food.
Wow. And then so is it your was it your journey of being able to beat being pre-diabetic that really pushed you to become someone who's passionate about helping others because you've succeeded at it? Is that what happened?
Yeah. I honestly never thought in my life I'd give up sugar. Like if you asked me like 3 years ago, I'd be like, heck no, why would I do that? Like, I was like, I always called myself a carboholic. It's like I loved cereal, I loved pasta, pizza. I loved all of it. And I thought it was impossible to let that go. But then I felt like almost kind of like I was a smoker and they were told, oh, you got cancer, you need to stop. It almost felt like that to me. Like I had to make a change. But basically, did I answer your question? I'm so sorry, I lost track.
Yeah, no. So when you shifted into your passion, it was because of yeah. And how did you find helping women who are going through the same journey? Like, what's their biggest struggle when it comes to sugar?
Well, it's a few things. Like the first thing, I think in the beginning, it's mostly women. I find this trend even when I was a personal trainer, it's the doubt that holds us back from doing a lot of things. It's like, especially even just doing physical activity. Like I used to train women on especially helping them do pull-ups because I was really big with upper body strength, and they always say, I can't do it. And so the same thing goes with sugar. It's like if you tell them to eat sugar-free, the first thing they say is, there's no way I could do it. There's no way I could do it. And they tend to focus on all the limits, all the limiting beliefs that they have about themselves rather than what's possible. And staying in that doubt and that fear just holds back so many people. So the first thing I help them do is help them see is like, it can be simple, it can be enjoyable, and it's not depriving, it's not restrictive. Like I help them see that it's sustainable in an easy way that you could actually enjoy. So the way that I teach them is it's sustainable.
Well, that's what I need. That's what everybody needs, is to just make things simple for us. And self-doubt is definitely, it's like everyone in the world, right? Even the toddler who's trying to learn a walk, they do experience self-doubt when they fall the first time. They're like, oh, do I try again? And they just keep trying anyway. But as you grow older, that kind of self-doubt is bigger because you're a lot more, I don't know, you just got a lot more self-doubt. You've practiced the self-doubt a lot more, so you do it more. And so it's applicable to everything that you do, especially giving up something. And giving up sugar is, I know I've tried a few, I've been on a couple of fasting times this year, and I did have self-doubt. Like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I have enough energy. So I got a couple of questions in relation to that. But I guess the first thing is about self-doubt. Like, why do we doubt ourselves, Charmaine, when it comes to doing good for our body? Why do we doubt ourselves? What do you think?
Well, that's a great question. I always teach this to my clients. I always say that there's like two parts of our brain. There's this part of our brain that's focused on survival. I call it the primitive brain. And that's the brain that has fear. It's the one that helps us stay safe. It's the one that tells us to run away from danger. It activates the fight or flight, but it's also the one that wants us to stay comfortable. And so if we want to do anything different, like, whenever we have a goal, whenever we have a dream, like when we want to evolve to the next level, there's that fear-based part of our brain, the survival mode of our brain that wants to hold us back, because the way for us to survive is to be efficient. Like we can't be constantly expending energy all the time. It just doesn't make sense for our species. So we have a natural tendency to just stay comfortable and stay efficient just for survival. So we're up against that every single time we want to change any habit. Like that's why everyone struggles with starting a new yoga routine or starting a new diet. Like it's always doing something different. So it's like training your brain to let go of an old habit, and then you have to train it to create a new one, which is a lot of energy. So we don't like wasting energy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just more comfortable to stay comfortable than do something different. So when you say you make it simple, how can it be simple to give up sugar? Can you please give me like 2 or 3 tips? That would be so good.
Yeah. The number one thing I always tell people is like what I said earlier, is just focus on eating real foods. Like don't worry about like if it's not packaged, like just keep it simple. Like just focus on the real foods. Like usually I recommend like eating meat, seafood, poultry, eggs, and what else? And vegetables and some fruits, like lower sugar fruits like berries. But make sure it's real. That's number one thing. And then I also say make sure you pick food that you actually like. Like I feel like when we think we're going on a diet, there's always like there's these beliefs about like going sugar-free, like it's a diet and you're supposed to keep eliminating, or you're supposed to eat food that is boring. And it really doesn't have to be boring. Like there's so many foods that you could try that, like with natural fats, like it tastes really good. Like steak, or just even certain cuts of meat, or just eggs. Like when you have the natural fat, it tastes really good. So you could eat, and bacon, I love bacon. So if you eat the foods you enjoy, that's like my second rule of thumb. And then the third rule I always tell people is eat when you're hungry and stop eating when you're full. And that just makes it really simple. Like you don't have to worry about tracking macros or counting calories. It's just creating this relationship with your body where you're basically, your body's telling you when it needs the fuel and you feed it when it needs that.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Because it can be simple, but then when you think about, for example, like step number 3, eat when you're hungry and stop eating when you're full. I wish it was like that all the time, but a lot of times also we are eating for our mind, like we're eating for something else, not for our body. Like we have so many things we're trying to deal with, that we're looking for something outside of ourselves to numb whatever that is, whatever's going on. So I know when I used to get really anxious, I would eat something very sweet. And I know a lot of people that are, they would just reach for, I don't know, for a 6-pack of beer every night. I mean, I know a few people, I used to know a few people like that, but you know what I mean? Like, so there's a lot of reasons. And I used to enjoy a glass of wine every night back years ago when I was struggling with some important decisions in my life, some really difficult decisions in my life. Actually, I would probably consume a bottle of wine every second day, and I would drink it with dinner every night. And that was, and for me, and it's not so much, it's not a lot, but it depends on the body type. And I'm only small, and so a whole bottle for every second night is quite a lot for me. And so it started to, so I could say, yes, I know that I should only eat or drink when I'm hungry or thirsty. But when it comes to life itself, there's just a lot of things going on that it's not that easy. So for example, you were a nurse and I used to be a banker. So the top 2 most stressful professions in the world are medical and financial. And so like being a nurse or being a banker. And I know, for example, as a nurse or a banker, it's very similar. You have very high turnover kind of job. You deal with people like every 5 minutes, one person, 10 minutes, another person, half an hour, another person. Like you hardly get a break. And these people need you now, because they need you either for a medical need, or they need you because their money they've got, issues with their money. Their card is lost. They need to draw out some funds. They need to transfer to someone waiting, or they want to find out what happened to the transaction. So it's, and you are there, you need to address that. And so you could be doing that on the phone, you could be doing that in person. And so you are this hot, vibrating, negative ball of energy and you need some kind of a break, and you go into, I don't know, you go to the back office and you reach for the fridge, you open the fridge, you just want to drink something because you're thirsty, you've been talking for 2 hours nonstop. When you open the fridge, you see, I don't know, a cake, you see a chocolate, you see a bar. And then your brain goes, if I could just have that, then I'll feel better for my next client, for my next patient. And then you have that, and then you have a rush and you go, oh, this feels good, I'm capable again. And then when you have the next stressful hour, you go back to the fridge and you do it again. And the next thing, that's your habit. And so this is how unconsciously we can become either pre-diabetic, or we just become so dependent on things that even when we're not hungry, it's something I know I do it. And I still do it now, like when after, you know, so I'm the first to say that, yes, I'm aware. And so I know that you've developed something to address this kind of stress response, if you will, because it is a stress response. When the modern stress response, like in the old days, back in our caveman ancestors, it's fight or flight. They run or they fight, but now we just eat. So how do we yeah, so what's your tip on this one? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's such a great point. And I do want to say that your story is exactly what happened to me when I was a nurse. Like, I was stress eating all the time. When I was angry, I was this little bubble of like anger and stress. So I always ate, and that's what led to the pre-diabetes, like just constantly eating whenever I was stressed. So, so what I first teach my clients is, which is really tricky for a lot of people, this takes some practice, but what we know is hunger right now, we really have to be able first to distinguish what is true hunger and what's emotional hunger. Like, I help them first make that distinguishment, because in a nutshell, I basically say true physical hunger is when you only need to eat to fuel your body. And then the emotional hunger, which you're kind of hinting at, is when you want to fuel your body for an emotional reason or any other reason besides physically fueling your body. So they have to be able to make that distinguishment first. So then when it comes to that moment where they are feeling stressed, they feel that overwhelming sensation, they can acknowledge that it's a feeling, like I have them label what emotion's coming up for them. Then I have them do this really simple tool that only takes a couple minutes, and it's something I call the 90-second power pause. And basically what it is it's just like a brief moment where, you know, because our usual inclination is just to react, right? Like, we're always reacting so much to the emotion. But with this power pause, I help my clients basically just take a step back, and it helps them to pause so that it's not such an automatic behavior, because it feels like when you're in it, you can't even consciously, you're not even aware of it sometimes. So you have to kind of notice the emotion that's coming up, and then you could do that power pause. So basically what it is you take only 90 seconds at least to basically go into your body and not your head. Because I feel like when we're stressed, we're always in our head. We're thinking about the thoughts that are overwhelming, that are stressful. So so if you focus on your body, you focus on the sensation in your body, it helps you to be mindful. It helps you to allow the emotion to come through and process. And that's what will actually allow your emotion to be released. So, and you could feel it so that you're not so tense, like you're not holding the tension anymore, and you're not wanting to avoid it with food.
Yeah, so true. And when it comes to it's tricky, like you said, being aware and and going into your body and out of your head. But there are so many physical signs. But sometimes if you can't, the most common sign of emotional need or reaction is just a shallow breathing. But let's go first to the most obvious physical signs that you're stressing and not really hungry. And you'll find your palms are cold, or your heartbeat is fast, or, you know, so I used to have this reaction where the hair at the back of my neck would go up. And it's not because I saw a ghost or that I had a spiritual experience, it was because someone was stressing me out. And it would literally, the hair at the back of my neck would stand up, and it would, and my whole back would be cold. So just stuff like that, just being really more mindful of the physical body. Don't even worry about that you're thinking about something, and your palms, your heart, even like your knees could be weak, or for some reason you just need to sit down. That's a bodily feeling. And if none of this is accessible to you, none of this recognition, you can just simply observe your breathing. Because if you're not, because chances are you actually are holding your breath because you are just so stressed, and you're breathing as you talk. But when you're not talking, you're just holding it like this.
Right.
And to be aware is just to start breathing. And so many, like I spent quite a few years when I thought I was able to stop the palpitation of the heart, the sweaty palms, and the hair standing back my neck. I've been able to stop that, but I couldn't stop the holding the breath. I always held my breath. So I was always like in here, like there's pressure in my head because the anxiety and anger, and because I'm holding my breath, right? But when you breathe, there's this thing in yoga where when you've had enough deep breaths, it really calms your nervous system. And this is really general science, isn't it? Your parasympathetic nerves just go into calm mode if you just breathe. And so I guess that's the first thing that you can notice is when you're holding your breath, even though you're not talking, therefore you're really stressed. And so just breathe and do the 9-second para pause. So so after, what usually happens when you've been able to develop this kind of habit for yourself, to be more aware of the body, and just have the 90 seconds to yourself to breathe, and just respect that you're going through something, but you're not necessarily hungry. So when someone has that awareness, what usually happens for them?
Well, I just think it's so powerful because so many times, like, we're not even used to feeling, like we're always escaping our emotions in some way, whether it's like social media or food or something else that's kind of like addictive. So I think it just creates this great sort of relationship with your body where you just learn how to feel different emotions. And then when you have that curiosity about yourself, when you're welcoming emotions, then you start seeing that if you just start letting them in, and you start being curious about them and how they feel rather than fearing them and pushing them back, when you allow them, then you could see that as a human, like, you could really embrace all your emotions and really accept yourself as you are when you have all the emotions coming in, and you don't favor just the positive, but you could even look at the gifts at the negative. Because what happened to me was when I was feeling stressed, when I didn't eat, I had to start looking at why the stress was there. And then I started asking myself, like, what's the real problem here? Like, what's really going on? And that really helped me to dig deeper, and it helped me see like what the true problem was. Like, I was feeling overwhelmed. I was wanting to do everything. So that gave me an opportunity to just learn how to manage my time better and learn how to communicate better as a leader. And that led to, because I wasn't eating to escape, so I created this new life for myself where it's like, okay, I'm looking for the cause of the emotion, the opportunity here. And then now, because I'm looking at the opportunity, it's like, okay, then I fix the problem. Like, I become a better communicator, I develop better relationships with people, and I stop taking on everything. Like, I start delegating, and so it changed everything for me. I started leaving work on time. I stopped overeating at work and stopped stress eating, and then reversed the pre-diabetes. So it's like,
Wow.
just allowing the emotion can be really your best ally, and it's not something to push away.
That is so powerful. Like so you were like 27, 28, the self-awareness that you developed just from stemming from finding out you were pre-diabetic is really astounding. It's stunning, actually, because a couple of things you said is curiosity. And this is something that that really is very important, close to my heart, because earlier this year I was interviewing Australia's most famous speed painter. Her name's Sarah Rowan, and in the interview she said to me, If the only place that you ever come from when it comes to dealing with life is curiosity, you are going to win. Because if curiosity is such a beautiful place to come from. So it's not coming from fear, it's not coming from any personal agenda, it's not coming from ego, but just curiosity. But when you said there that to be curious about your emotion, that's number one. And the next thing that you said is that even when you identify, so you're curious and you've identified you are actually having some negative emotions, actually looking at that negative emotion as an opportunity to understand. It's actually like turning it into, oh, curious, where is that coming from? What can I do to fix that? And it's a high level self-awareness that's really simple to do. And I love it because, like you said, the results of it changed your life. It reversed pre-diabetic. So that's number one. But just the increase in your levels of relationship through your better communication, and even delegation is something that I've really sucked at when I was like, I would just like, I'll do it, it's okay, yeah, I'm not busy. And it's just the next thing I'm like, what the, you know what I mean? But it's because I didn't have the capacity to communicate to myself that this is not okay. And then I, let alone the capacity to communicate with others that, hey, you know, this is not okay. And yeah, I love curiosity and just creating opportunities even for the negative emotions. And then it just snowballs into a beautiful life. So, so then when it comes to once you've, let's say you've mastered the sugar craving, what's the next step in order to really to sustain? Because one of the hardest things about, I know we're not talking about a particular going on a diet here, but the fact is when someone does a change, like for example, when someone enrolls in a gym, they go to the gym for 3 months and then they stop, and it's not a sustained change. Same thing with diets. They do, I don't know, the 30-day whole meal, and then they do it for 30 days, yay, and then the 31st day and they go. So what happened? How can we sustain this kind of practice? What are the key things to remember in order for this practice of 90-second power pause to be part of our lives?
Oh man, that's such a good question, because you're so right. Like, people think it's like, oh, once I just do this thing, then I'll be okay, and then after I'll be fine, you know. But where the real work comes in is not from picking the food. It's more about how you're identifying yourself and who you're becoming along the way. Because if you're still stuck in this version of you that does want food for a reward or does go to food for comfort, and you don't change that identity, you don't change that belief system, you're never going to sustain it and keep it off, because you have this belief still that, oh, food comforts me, I need this to feel better. So what needs to happen is you have to start changing that. Even it's kind of like an identity shift. It's kind of like you have to start thinking as if you're already a person who is sustaining this, who maybe is at your goal weight, or who is eating sugar-free as a lifestyle change, and you start thinking about her and you make decisions from her place. So like I tell my clients, it's kind of like, how would the future version of you who's already lost 30 pounds, like, how did she keep it off? Like, what did she do to comfort herself instead of go to food? Like, maybe she talked to a friend, maybe she was doing the power pause or meditating, or she did something to manage her emotions without food. You know, maybe she learned a workout routine that she does enjoy. Like thinking about those small habits, which I love this whole show, like the atomic self-love, because it's kind of like focusing on those atomic habits that you could do little by little to become that person who can keep it off permanently. Yeah. And then that's what makes it sustainable. So for me, for example, because I never thought I was a person who would eat sugar-free, but the minute I decided to be someone who's sugar-free, I just made that my identity. It's like, I don't eat sugar. I'm just like, nope, I don't eat sugar. I don't eat flour. Like, just like I always tell people, it's like, if you don't smoke, you just say, nope, I don't smoke. No, thank you. And it really just becomes who you are. And I never had a problem switching, because I was just like, nope, I just don't do that.
Yep. You just take the identity on. It's so powerful. You mentioned this concept, the future self, and it's just so true in every aspect of life. One of my original business mentors, this is years ago. When I first ran a business, this is like in 2017 or something, on business on my own. And I was training myself. It's an online business, training myself for the first 6 months. And I had a business mentor. And what she said to me, it was, when I had to make a decision, is this the marketing that I need to do? Is that the decision that I need to make when it comes to a client? And most of the time, because I was new to the business, I didn't know what to do. And she would always tell me, so your future self 2 years from now, what decision would she make about this particular issue? So how would she decide? Would she be hung up on the $50 that you have to spend on that marketing? Or will she think about, or will she make a decision that's nothing compared to the success that we're going to have a couple of years down the track? It's the same thing with mothering, for example. Now my kids are teenagers, and my goodness, they challenge you. They push the limit. But I make decisions coming from a place, what's my relationship with my adult children like in the future? That's the kind of relationship I want to maintain with them, and therefore coming from that will be how I'm going to make this decision now. And the same thing, excuse me, recently, this is supposed to be a trial week for me, but 3 days ago I've decided to join the 5 a.m. club. And the 5 a.m. club, yeah, I know, right? And I thank you, I never wake up early, but I thought about it for like 36 hours. Why do I want to make this decision? Why do I want to join the 5? I was just like, can I do this? Can I commit to it? But once I accessed the future self 12 months from now in December 2021 and looked at her and how she felt, it's only been 3 days, mind you, but every morning I make the decision of getting up from her, because she's thinking for me now, get up 5 a.m. I'm like, and I'm happy to do it. I'm just like so excited. But if I was making that decision from the who I am now, I'm like, oh my God, it's early. Like, I just want to stay in bed. But it's powerful. Like when you make the decision about sustaining your being sugar free or being healthy with the consumption of your food, it's really like making the decision, okay, the who I am 12 months from now is saying, not, it's just no deal. That's not who I am. I don't do that. I don't indulge. I am someone who can be aware of my emotions before I feed the hungry body, only the hungry body, but not the emotional eating. I think this is just so, it's just the future self. If you apply that to the food, especially for me, because I will be first to say, food is not something I've mastered. So food is not something that I've applied my future self to, but tonight, it's just really more, the way that you've said it, Charmaine, is just more true, more powerful, because I know in many other areas of my life, the future self works. It's amazing, amazing. Thank you. So I'd like to ask you, in the interest of time, what would be your one most heartfelt advice to women, who want to be better with their food?
Well, first thing I would say is I believe anyone can do it. Like, I don't think there's any limitations on it. I think anyone could be successful in it. And I think the most important place to start is really just believing in yourself, and finally just allowing ourselves to focus on our successes rather than our fears, and really like think of more what's possible for you and what you can accomplish in your life rather than why you can't. And I swear to you, like, you will be able to do anything that you want to do. But that's the most important thing. Believe in yourself that you could do it, and then you'll figure it out.
Yeah. And like our card said in the beginning, like always have the compassion, self-compassion and self-love to shift the perspective into, into something positive for yourself. I think that we spend so much time beating ourselves up for something that we've done a minute ago, when there's a future and there's the now to think about. And that's all that matters, is really to believe in yourself now. And we're not perfect. And so if this now is not quite right, then there's always going to be a next now. And every moment is a big chance to really do. I think my cat is really hungry because she's my poor kitty. Oh, Missy. I'll feed her in a minute. We're going to be finished soon. Um, can you hear her? She's like, meow,
Yeah.
meow, I'm hungry. And
Oh my
no one's
gosh, I have
paying
cats
attention.
too.
Like there's like 4 other people in the house, but they're not paying attention to her. Talk about sugar craving. Yeah, that would be physical hunger. I don't think she's emotionally reacting. She's really,
Right, that's physical hunger. That's really like she needs food.
oh, my poor baby. Yeah, so it's just believing in yourself every moment that you've got this, because this is what someone said, this is your temple, the body that you have. So Charmaine, how can we have more of you? I heard that you have a masterclass coming up soon. So can we, we want to have more of you and learn more about how we can be more, better for us, better for our bodies. Let us know. And also, please, if you have a link, yeah, we'll post that on the comments as well.
Oh yeah, sure. I am hosting a free online workshop. It's on Zoom. It will be on Monday, December 14th. It's 2 p.m. Pacific time, so I'm not sure how that goes. But
So that's
but it's
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That'll be about 8 o'clock in the morning here. So cool.
oh,
Yeah.
oh great.
Tuesday,
Awesome.
8 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
So how can we register? Do I have a link to register? Yep.
Yeah, I put the link in the chat, and
Awesome. Cool.
and it's basically a 1-hour workshop where I'm going to teach you everything like why we have cravings and how to finally conquer our cravings, how to cut our cravings without any without feeling deprived, without feeling restricted. So I teach people how to do it in 4 simple steps, which I'll share with you in the workshop, and then that'd be awesome to teach you all my best tools there.
Yay, amazing, cool. And so to end our Atomic Self-Love show tonight, I'm going to pull out one more card, and so we can take this away with us for the week. The week for me starts on Sundays. For some people, it starts on Mondays. For me, Sundays, so it's the start of my week. And I am, so I've got, ooh, this is pretty cool. Actually, it's double, but this one. I trust that my gut reaction is the truth underneath the surface of my fears.
Oh, I love that.
Isn't it cool? Wow. And it's talking about connecting with the body, like out of your head and just, yeah, isn't that, this is really cool. Yeah, we've just been talking about this, like really being connected to, because this is, they say the gut is your second brain, like it's where power and knowledge and really wisdom comes from. It's like when you're centered here and you've got that vibration happening, in a balanced way, so you get out of your head, because your head's full of belief systems that you've inherited from people, and even you trust your second brain, which is your gut. And so, yeah, I trust that my gut reaction is the truth underneath the surface of my fears. Amazing. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Charmaine. So Charmaine and I will be hanging out for a little bit. We will end our Facebook Live. Thank you again. We'll see you next week on our Atomic Self-Love project on Spiritual Events Directory. I love you all, and I will say goodbye. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun.